fell deeply asleep at 6 a.m, only to be woken at 6:10 by the lady who monitors the vet clinic phones after hours, calling me to a prolapse. While I got dressed, James made me 2 cups of coffee, bless him, one to drink on the way and the other in a thermos cup for afterwards. It was an enormous prolapse, and both it and the cow, who was down, were covered in mud. The paddock looked like the Somme. It was raining, and only just light, but the couple who owned the farm and their nice Filipino worker had never seen a prolapsed uterus before, and they were so excited that all 3 of them came to help. It was marvellous. Normally, with prolapses, you cradle a great lump of swollen, red, inside-out uterus on your lap, trying to lift it and get it back in with the help of one assistant, who is usually small and feeble and wants to be somewhere else. But this time I had 2 cheerful, strapping men to lift the uterus, and a 3rd assistant to keep it clean and covered in lube, as I pushed and shoved and folded and massaged it back inside the cow where it belonged. That well-known stage of prolapse replacement where you're exhausted and wondering why you ever thought that anyone would ever be able to thread a lump of tissue the size of a fat Labrador through a hole the size of a grapefruit was bypassed entirely. Thursday, the 18th of July. Today, I was supposed to spend the morning at home. It feels at the moment as if I'm never there, certainly not for long enough to do anything useful, like housework or gardening. But no. James appeared back at the door 10 minutes after he'd left, saying that Dream, the heading dog, had just eaten the remains of a mouldy bag of possum bait off the rubbish fire pile at the woolshed. My fault, as he explained at some length, for throwing mouldy possum bait into the bin when I got home from checking bait stations last week. So I took Dream, and Taz in case he'd eaten it too, to the clinic and gave them apomorphine to make them vomit. Dream, horrible little grub that she is, had apparently washed down her snack of mouldy bait with sheep poo. That dog has no class. Back at home, I paid the bills, reconciled last month's accounts, and wrestled with the PAYE. I have not yet mastered payday filing, mostly due to not caring enough to learn how to do it properly, so I'm anticipating a nasty letter from Inland Revenue any time now. While looking at my credit card statement, always depressing, I saw a strange transaction. Supposedly, I had spent $50 at Tool King somewhere in Massachusetts, USA. Oh, shit, I thought, and rang the bank hotline. Bad mistake. First, I got my name wrong when they asked for it. My credit card is still in my maiden name. I never got around to changing it. Then I failed the security questions. What was your work phone number when you opened this account? It was about 20 years ago. How the hell would I know? What was your most recent credit card purchase? No idea. Groceries? Ellie's new sneakers? I had a long and dispiriting conversation with a girl who was evidently wondering whether I was a criminal or just a moron, which ended when I remembered that I had bought a pair of fancy secateurs from a tiny stall at the field days last month. The feeling of being a complete twerp was not alleviated by reading an article about myself in Newsroom. The nice young journalist who came for lunch a few weeks ago has quoted me at length, verbatim, and I sound like Lynn of Tawa after a hard night on the piss. Judging by my family's hysterical laughter at the picture topping the article, I look like it too. I was cheered up over dinner, though, when Blake asked, "What colour was Dad's hair when it was still alive?" Friday, the 19th of July. I've done a terrible thing. I assumed the woman I was standing next to at the edge of the netball courts this afternoon was pregnant, and she's not. We were talking about calving. She and her husband work on a dairy farm, and I looked meaningfully at her stomach and said, "You'll be busy this spring." There was a puzzled sort of silence before she said quietly, "No, I'm not pregnant. I'm just fat." Awful. Just awful. I bet she went home and cried. And I know the rules. You never, ever ask a woman when the baby is due unless you can actually see a baby coming out.